welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you, Marcia. Thank you for having me. Good evening to you and to your viewers.
It's a real honor to have you here with us. And as I said, I have watched you. I have watched you advocate on behalf of women, single women. I've seen you. I've seen you in Parliament. And I've been watching you for about 2, 3 years now, actually.
Oh,
So it's a
wow.
real honor to have you on. And we're accustomed to Honorable Coretta McDonald. And so it's great to meet another strong female from Guyana. So,
Uh,
what's happening in Guyana?
well, where do we start? Where do we start? There's a lot happening. We're certainly now front and center on the world stage as the newest petrostate.
Mhm.
We see, of course, in the international media, a lot of um, grand plans and a lot of propaganda and very carefully curated messages that would
Mhm.
suggest that all is well in Guyana and that we are on the up and up. And certainly by the traditional metrics of the fastest growing economy, etc.
Mhm.
Um, the numbers give a certain indication, but I'm
Right.
always very clear about the reality on the ground, and what you see in the social media, what you see in the public space, certainly is a distant reality as it relates to the life of the average Guyanese, of the ordinary hardworking Guyanese, and their ability to participate in all of this fastest growing economy. There's a
Mhm.
clear disconnect between the quality of life of our Guyanese citizens and all that you see in the media. And so my role, of course, as a member of parliament, and particularly one that shadows foreign affairs and international cooperation, is to really make sure that people understand what is happening on the ground, what the reality is, and what the ordinary Guyanese continues to face. So there's a serious disparity between what is said internationally and, of course, the images that you see internationally, and the suffering and the hunger, actually, of a lot of people. And of course, what I'm saying is borne out by numbers.
Mhm.
Recent reports have said that over 50% of Guyanese are food insecure. Um,
What's the percentage?
Over 50%
Hmm.
are food insecure. Inflation is running away, and of course, that has a direct impact on
Mhm.
the lives of Guyanese. And then, of course, there is the breakdown of our democratic institutions.
But
And if
before you go on, Honorable, ma'am, I want to. You talked about the propaganda
Mhm.
that is, we are receiving outside of Guyana, because when you think about it, you're hearing about all the oil,
Mhm.
and what we hear, we're hearing that every Guyanese is going to get what's it, $100,000
Yes.
and so
Yes.
on, and whether they are in Guyana, if they, whether they're even citizens. It seems
Mhm.
like once you're a resident, you're going to get all of this money. It sounds good. So can you break down for us give us the average lifestyle of a Guyanese? What does that look like?
So the minimum wage in Guyana for a public servant is anywhere in the vicinity of 400 US dollars per month.
Per
And
month?
per month.
Wow.
Yes.
Even
And
with all the oil, was that
even,
before or this is
no, no,
now?
no, this is now. This is now. And in fact, it is now because between 2015 and 2020,
Mhm.
the then APNU AFC government actually increased public servant salaries somewhere in the vicinity of about 90%.
Mhm.
So the life for the average Guyanese without oil was markedly better under the previous administration. And these are by all the
How is
objective,
that?
because it's a question of management, and it's a question of having a government now that prioritizes concrete over care, and buildings over people, and roads over a real um, investment in the people of Guyana. And so that is what you're seeing. So when you drill down, you realize that behind, like I said, this very carefully curated picture, there's a lot of muck, and you see a lot of initiatives that are not well thought out, because this so $100,000 is like 500 US dollars. Let's just use that as a flat fee. At first, the president here finally went to the National Assembly and made a grand announcement that every household was going to get the equivalent of 200,000 Guyana dollars, which is 1,000 US thereabouts.
Oh,
So
okay. So it's two. So it's a
no, no, no,
thousand.
no, 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 no. It's now at 500 US dollars. So he went
Hold
to
a
the
minute. It's only
no, no,
500 US
no,
dollars.
Marcia, let me tell you the story, no man. So 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 when the National Assembly reconvened in October of this year, he went to make his ceremonial address and made a grand announcement that instantaneously, and I quote him here, every Guyanese household will receive a one-off cash grant of $200,000. I know, of course, everybody was up about it, and the international media was carrying that Guyanese are participating in the oil wealth, etc. And then the reality of the implementation of this sunk in, because we were asking, what is the definition of a household? What is the definition of a household? And what is the mechanism or the approach built
Right.
of the Guyanese citizenry in this? And then it began to sink in further that if I have a household by whatever metric they define a household, let's assume that it is people living in a house and eating out of all eating out of one pot. Let's assume that. So you have a household of 10 persons, ranging 18, 20, still living at home with parents, etc. And then you had a household with 2 persons in it. You see the inequity.
Yes.
Because it means that 200,000 has to be divided among 10 people in a house, adult Guyanese citizens, possibly tax-paying Guyanese citizens. So after the opposition began to say, well, okay, this clearly has not been thought out. And then what is your distribution mechanism? They didn't have an answer. So a week later, just about a week later, Air finally came back to the people of Guyana and said, oh, they've revised it. And they are now giving every Guyanese citizen above the age of 18, 500 US dollars.
So every guy, but I want you to pause there, Honorable Amanza. Pause right there. And I want Barbadians to listen carefully to what this this young woman is saying to us about what this attorney is saying to us of what's happening in Guyana, and see the similarities. You're following the fact that this was announced. They did not think about it, enough, plan it out. It wasn't thought out properly. Sounds familiar? In addition to that, I want us to notice that it was the goodly opposition. They have a strong opposition in Guyana, and they are the ones that caused them to go back to the drawing board. So when you hear Mr. Thorne, the lone opposition in the House, speaking, support him, because you need opposition. How large is your opposition in Guyana?
Well, the government of Guyana holds power by a 1-seat majority. So they do not have an overwhelming mandate by any stretch of the imagination. But of course, because of our very winner takes all system, they're able to get away with a lot, because of they have 1 seat in the National Assembly, and they're willing to use that 1 seat to drive whatever the government's agenda is, irrespective of how ill thought out it is. And so Guyana is suffering from a lack of good governance. There is not a sober, temperate approach to the management of this oil wealth. And the sad reality is that we are going by the way of a number of countries that have discovered oil and instead of being better off for it, found themselves worse off. One would have thought that with the plethora of examples in the world today of what not to do, that the government of Guyana, Irfan Ali's government, would have made a concerted effort to avoid those pitfalls. I mean, there are a million of us in this country, not yet a million. The last census pegs us at under 800,000.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is no reason why there is such poverty in the midst of all of the plenty. There is no reason why Guyanese children are still going to bed hungry. And let me tell you what bothers me about it, Marcia. Irfan
Yeah.
Ali does not get to traipse around the Caribbean, around CARICOM, and present himself as some sort of champion. He's presenting himself as a champion of food security when Guyanese continue to be food insecure. When Guyanese cannot afford basic food items. I'm talking about the ordinary hardworking Guyanese, not the elites that seem to be the only class of people enjoying the largesse of this oil wealth. So he does not get to traipse around CARICOM and present himself as a champion of some sort, because he is not. Because charity begins at home. And you cannot
Correct.
teach to CARICOM about food security and your own people are food insecure. It is hypocrisy. You cannot preach to CARICOM about our Haitian brothers and sisters. When Irfan Ali's government's first order of business was to revoke visa-free travel for Haitians to Guyana, he does not get to do that.
But I mean, I hear. I mean, aren't they trying to get Venezuelans to come to Guyana now?
Well, they're not trying to get Venezuelans to come to Guyana. Venezuelans are coming to Guyana because our western border is porous. It is absolutely porous. And so the government has seen this as an opportunity to integrate Venezuelans into our society. Now, let me be clear. We owe economic migrants certain duties and they have certain rights in accordance with the international legal order. Their human dignity, their legal rights, their human rights have to be upheld and preserved. They're entitled to the full protection of the law. Those are not negotiables. And so I want to make that very clear. But we cannot ignore the fact that there is a deep-seated, genuine belief that our Essequibo, which is 2/3 of our country, belongs to them. An erroneous belief, but a belief nonetheless. And so it is not a situation that we could treat like any other economic migrant, because you can understand the implications of political integration into our system, because nothing stops a situation where they come in, are integrated, and then by the process of self-determination, decided they want to be governed by Venezuela. And then where does that leave us? So
Right.
the point that I'm making is that there's so much happening geopolitically here. There's a lot going on, and there is not that sober, temperate approach to the government that we had hoped to see, that would see every Guyanese benefiting from the oil wealth. Our teachers, believe it or not, are still the most poorly paid teachers in the Caribbean, second only to Haiti.
You serious?
I am very serious. And even with the increases that they have gotten, they're still
But
the lowest.
Honorable Amanza, you know what is bothering me? I mean, our Prime Minister, Mia Mottley, is, she's a champion of people's rights, and she's all over the world, and the UN and the UN, pushing UN sustainable goals, etc. And I've not heard her brought up any issues about what's happening in Guyana. None of the issues in Guyana. I mean, the very fact that Guyana would not welcome Haitians but are welcoming Venezuelans.
And look, while I my stated position is that I don't comment on the internal affairs of other nations, this information is out there because the David Granger led administration was the first country in CARICOM to implement, in accordance with the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas, visa-free travel for Haitians.
Oh.
We did it.
And
On
they
an
revoked it, and they
and it
now
was the
revoked it.
first order of business to revoke it.
My God.
And
So
then they
where are the Pan-Africanists? This is the
they,
thing about I don't understand, Miss
look,
Amanza.
it's not even about Pan-Africanism as it is about the fact that you have the audacity, you have the unmitigated gall to revoke visa-free travel for Haitians, and then you stand on a CARICOM platform to talk about the rights of Haitians. And these are the things that we have to continue to expose, because Irfan Ali does not get to present himself as a champion of Haitians in CARICOM when he is victimizing Haitians, when he has, by the act of assenting to an order that revokes visa-free travel for Haitians, by that very act, acted against the people of Haiti. Because it is not a case where they were pouring in here. It is not a case where, it could not be monitored and managed. And so, this is this is the conversation that we have to continue to have. So
I'm just in shock to believe that in this day and age that we're not hearing the other CARICOM leaders speaking about this. This is something that this sounds to me like discrimination. This sounds to me like what the Black Guyanese are facing in Guyana. Is it that they don't want to blacken up Guyana?
look,
I'm asking.
let me say this. One could not be faulted if they came to that conclusion based on the evidence before us. One couldn't be faulted if they came to that conclusion, because look, and then when you measure that against the utterances of, for example, recent utterances by the Minister of Culture, who said to the head of and one of our foremost artists in this country and the head of the Yarborough School of Arts that he's not the face of what they want their ministry to look like. Now, this is a Afro-Guyanese like me, a man by the name of Mr. Thom, one of the best sculptors that we've ever produced.
What's his name? How do you spell his name? Let's see if we could find his picture. How do you spell his name?
Mr. Thom, Thom.
Thom.
Yes.
A Guyanese sculptor. He's a
Yes.
sculptor.
Yes. He is the head of the Yarborough School of Art. And so,
Yeah.
so he was racially profiled. He was verbally abused by the Minister of Culture, and he resigned. He tendered his resignation. Barra Jagdeo came out and said, "Oh, he spoke with the man, and he tried to make amends about it, and encouraged him to return." But
So
when
it wasn't anything to do with his work, just the way he looked.
No, well, more than likely, based on the utterances of the young Minister of Culture, and so and it's distressing for me that, because Guyana is a very racially polarized country, and so it's very disturbing for me. It's very disturbing for me to.
Is that him?
Yes, that's Mr. Tom. It's very disturbing for me to hear somebody at the helm of culture that has the potential to unite us as a people, given how fractured we are, utter those sentiments. And so I've been very clear in my call for his resignation. I have been very clear in my call for him to be removed from heading culture, because he is too divisive a figure to do that. So, and Marcia, this is why programs such as yours are important. Your programs are important because it allows us a platform to come on here and to expose the nonsense that is happening in Guyana, and to let people know what is really happening. Because the other point that you must note is that the media, state media, the opposition does not have access to the state media. None.
Let this be a teaching moment for Barbados. We're giving him a platform. Do you understand? It's not siding with any party, but the opposition must have a platform. Here it is that the Honorable Amanza, she's saying to us that the opposition does not have a platform, a media
Right.
platform.
So there,
In,
yeah.
in
So the government controls state media, and
yes,
um, and we do not have access to it. So we depend heavily on social media. We depend on um, those members of the media that are courageous enough to carry our dissenting views. But it is really unfortunate because, of course, the national media is funded by taxpayers' dollars.
yes. It's the
So
same here. It's the same here.
these are some of these are, and I've just touched on the tip of the iceberg.
This
When
is
we talk about corruption, we talk about the complete breakdown of law and order.
I
Right?
want to hear about that in the next couple of minutes that we have. I want you to
Yeah.
talk because then we see some of that on that was the first time we saw that something was wrong there when there was a US media company that went there and did some investigative journalism,
Mm,
and they were able to uncover some of the
yeah.
corruption that was happening
Right.
there
Right.
with your
With no
vice
less a
president.
person than the second vice president of the country.
Yes. So can you tell us what's going on there?
Well, again, like I started off by asking you, where do we start?
Mm,
Because the country is so mired in corruption that it's affecting now um, investment. Look, we have an ongoing scandal right now with our police force. Law and
yes.
order has so irretrievably broken down that we have a serving police, senior police, and assistant police commissioner before the courts on 240 counts, amounting to some 800 million Guyana dollars thereabouts, for monies that you can't account for. Bribery, corruption, all of it. You have a situation where the commissioner of police's office has indicated that yes, they received gifts from business people, monetary gifts for this man's wedding. So,
Mm-hmm.
so
Yes.
there's a complete breakdown of order. The things that should alarm any democratic society, they're happening here daily, and the government is doing its level best with its propaganda
Mm,
to cover that. But again, as opposition MPs, we have a duty to speak up when this is happening. So it's a conspiracy of all kinds of negative circumstances that are currently happening here. And
yes.
so,
Right. That's the
something is
story there. That Brutus,
absolutely,
right. We were, yes.
absolutely something is rotten in poor Georgetown, and the world has to know, and they have to understand, because the only time that this PPPC administration even attempts to act properly is when the eyes of the world are upon them and they are embarrassed into taking corrective action.
Wow. I am so grateful and thankful that you could just come on and to confirm and to also educate us on some of the things that we were not aware of, and to break it down in such a clear and concise manner, because Honorable Coretta McDonald, she's going to be on Friday, because when we say we're cousins, and we're going to use this platform, I promise you, ma'am, to
Right.
keep this issue and what's happening, the true story of what's going
Absolutely.
on in Guyana, in our faces, and we can never say we did not know. And we
Absolutely.
need to hold our leaders accountable within CARICOM. Like our leader, how could you? How could you be inviting him here, the president here, with no discussion about what is happening to our Black brothers and sisters in Guyana?
And
What is happening?
I
Yeah.
will say this as well. Um, what we are finding now is that historically, the Afro-Guyanese has been disadvantaged. When you look at um, the ending of slavery, the fact that they had to buy lands, when you look at the ending of indentured servitude, etc., the way those two institutions ended and what it created in terms of economics.
Mm-hmm.
You have seen through history uh, the inequitable
Yes.
distribution of Guyana's wealth. And what you're finding now is that inequity continues in terms of the treatment of the Afro-Guyanese. However,
Mm-hmm.
there also are Indo-Guyanese brothers and sisters who are suffering just as badly. And so it is
Yes.
slowly mutating. It is mutating out of an issue of race to one of class,
Class. Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
we have Indo-Guyanese brothers and sisters that are suffering just as badly under this administration. The difficulty that we have as Guyanese is to see whether the commonality of our interests uh, are enough to unite us in a
Mm-hmm.
common struggle for equity
Right.
and justice in Guyana, or whether we will continue to separate into our enclaves when the rubber reaches the road. And I think that is the true test that lies ahead of us. Are we as a people going to rise up and determine that we want a country with strong institutions, with a strong police force, with a strong judiciary, with a strong healthcare system, or whether we will continue to really eat those bitter fruits that were planted, in our society so long ago by people who had a vested interest in keeping us divided. So, that really is the challenge
Yeah, yeah.
that lies
I
ahead of
like how you put that, because I believe from speaking also with Honorable Coretta McDonald,
us.
we recognize that it's not just against Black people, but they're seeing a class thing that is happening.
Absolutely.
Where yes, because there are some Indo-Guyanese that are really, really, in that bracket as well, and not
Absolutely. And
yeah.
facing terrible victimization when they speak out. We have the case of a young man from Region 3 who he has been very clear. An Indo-Guyanese young man has been very clear in his criticism of the government, and he imported fruits, etc. Last week, they revoked his importation license without any probable cause or
Anyway.
justification.
He probably spoke up about something, or
No,
they
he
don't have.
continuously spoke up about the way in which they were awarding contracts, the way in which
Ah,
they were allocating resources. He was very loud in his advocacy for the equal distribution of wealth. He was upset about the fact that they were discriminating against who he saw to be his Guyanese brothers and sisters. So he was made to pay. So it's a problem, and my hope continues to be in the people of Guyana. My hope continues to be that we could really rise up and understand, one, as a people, what we are entitled to, the
mhm.
fact that we are entitled to participate fully in this economy, the fact that this oil wealth does not belong to Irfan Ali and his friends and families and associates, and that leaders in CARICOM as well will understand that they have a duty to pay
Mhm,
attention to these things,
mhm.
to take heed, and to be fraternal enough to be honest with their fellow leaders and to say, hey, you're going wrong here. This is not, acceptable, because I think then we will begin to see um, stronger countries, stronger CARICOM countries, and a stronger CARICOM bloc. Uh,
Yes, agree.
and so I think we have some challenges ahead of us,
Yeah.
but the indomitable spirit of our Caribbean people, of our Guyanese people, of our Barbadian people, of our Antiguan brothers and sisters will have to triumph to get us through this successfully.
Yes. As we close this evening, but I know that this is a relationship that we hope we will, we can engender and keep it going, because I think the education is important. People are just like, wow.
Yes.
I saw people literally wrote in the comment section, wow, and they're getting the confirmation that would have come from Honorable Coretta McDonald,
Right.
Richard Burke, and everybody. I mean,
Absolutely. Yeah.
I would love to be able to chat with you on your cybercrime bill another time, but I
Yeah.
want you
That is a bill that we have to repeal
yes. So the next time that you come on,
very,
which I
very
hope is,
quickly.
I hope is next week before we go to Washington, I'm going to tell you some things about us going to Washington with a hearing. We've been called, to do to submit some concerns about our cybercrime bill in Washington, to through a UN agency there. So I'm going to talk to you about that. But you issued a little not you spoke to the leaders in CARICOM, you spoke to the Guyanese, Guyanese citizens. What do you want to say to to us, the citizens, not the leaders? What is the takeaway you want us to have from this conversation? The citizens of the Caribbean, people who are listening. What's the final thing you want to say to us?
That our leaders do as much as we allow them to. That the power really does lie with the people,
Mm.
and that we have to guard against those that would divide us for their own agendas. I'm proud to be a member of the party of Forbes Burnham, who admonished us that it is either we integrate or perish.
Hmm.
I want to say to us that we have a duty to the people of Haiti. I want to
Hmm.
say to us that we have the ability in and ourselves to solve our problems, but we have to come to some realizations, and we have to put aside some egos for our good, because there's struggles that we are facing that are so common. Your prime minister, to her credit, talks a lot about climate change, and it is something that affects us as a region, and the possibility that our very livelihoods could be wiped out if we do not take certain action is a very
And
clear and
the operative word there is talk, because we live here and we know otherwise.
well, like you live there, like I live here. So
Yes,
so 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 we have to be mindful as a people that we have to rise up, and we have to hold our leaders accountable, and we have to understand the power of our vote and use it.
yes,
And I think then and only then we will begin to see that true Caribbean spirit, and the CARICOM spirit, that it was intended to, when it was founded so many years ago by those leaders that had vision, that
hmm,
admonished us, it's either we integrate or we perish. um, that we could really rise up and live that out, because we're not doing that right now. CARICOM has to recalibrate, it has to be re-engineered, to really realize that vision of Caribbean integration. Much
yes.
has been accomplished, but we could be farther along.
Yes, yes. Well, thank you so much, Honorable Amanza, for being on with us tonight, educating us and encouraging us. And I really love that last piece there, that how you spoke to us as Caribbean people, to
Mm,
understand who we are and
yeah.
what to expect of our leaders. Very, very well presented tonight. And I'm going to be
Thank
reaching
you.
out to you about the cybercrime bill. Okay. God
Anytime,
bless you.
Marcia. Thank you for having me, and God bless you. God
Yes,
bless
God
you.
bless. Thank you. Thank you.